Hello, I am Jayanto Chatterjee and I am interacting with you on behalf of IIT Kanpur on managing services and contemporary issues in today's world. In the last few sessions, we have looked at the different unique characteristics of services or characteristics that particularly apply to the service domain, the challenges that are created by those particular characteristics. And we have seen how in different ways as a service business we can respond to those challenges successfully. Today I am going to discuss the process of engaging with the service flow. So consumer in the services flow. This will be our topic today. But before that, let me give you a nice view, composite view of the characteristics of services on one side and the responses linked to that. And as you will see from this particular table, borrowed from number of researchers and their work, that there is a certain thematic linkage among those various strategies. And some of the response strategies actually tackle number of service characteristics. So we have intangibility, and we have discussed intangibility as our response, as our marketing strategy. In response to intangibility, we would like to highlight vivid, tangible images. We would like to highlight personnel engaged in the services, their competence, their dress, their equipment, and so on. We have also discussed how we can use word of mouth publicity. So stimulation and simulation of customer advocacy becomes very important here. Create strong organizational images that kind of becomes a container for projecting the tangibility of the service provider's capability. And of course, we have also talked about the importance of communication pre as well as post consumption. There is one particular issue with respect to how we need to understand the cost elements in detail so that we can signal in the price some responses with respect to intangibility. This one we will discuss later when we discuss pricing of services. So these are responses to intangibility, which are often called the mother of all services marketing problems. We have the other ones, inseparability. So we have discussed about how we kind of manage consumers. Some of these issues we will discuss in today's session, where we study consumer in a services flow. And I think in the last session we have discussed that how we can tackle heterogeneity and perishability by using strategies to cope with fluctuating demand. And we need to adjust demand and capacity, or rather both side balancing management to tackle this heterogeneity and perishability. So you can look at this chart more in detail. There are a number of famous research references are given here. Lot of these are available for free for you to read on the net through the various search mechanisms, and full complete copy can be downloaded through your digital library system at your institute. But what I have taken care is that I have tried to cite those references which are readily accessible to most people directly through the search engines and some of the services. So let me now go to the topic of day. The consumer in the services flow, traveling from the pre-purchase to the service encounter to the post-purchase stage. So the pre-purchase stage is highlighted by these set of needs. I will take each one individually and try to understand and discuss with you some of the response mechanisms and service management issues. Incidentally, this whole flow of pre-encounter and post-encounter, of that, the pre-stage is similar to the famous AIDA or AIDA model, quite popular in understanding consumers' buying behavior in case of products. So there A stands for awareness, I stands for interest, D stands for desire, and finally A stands for action or the purchase action. This block that you see here, need, arousal, evaluation, etc., is actually a more expanded format of the AIDA model, but there are some nuances here which are particular to the services domain. So let us now see each one of these elements more in detail. So the first is need arousal. Obviously, the customer has some kind of need for which the customer then seeks some solution, some service. Now, this need can arise due to various triggers. Some of those triggers are physical, like hunger, when you seek a food and beverage service, or it could be triggered by the service organization through its marketing activity, or it could be actually also related to certain personal esteem or social need. So as you can see, this need arousal mechanisms are quite tied to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have already briefly discussed this earlier, but if you are again not familiar, you can again go back to the net and search for Maslow, M-A-S-L-O-W, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and just quickly go through those several stages of needs, starting from physical and security needs going up to self-actualization, and the different kind of triggers that can happen for different kinds of services with respect to those needs. At this stage for us, our discussion today, we say that there is some kind of need that has been triggered in the consumer's mind, and the consumer is looking for some solution. So the first activity, obviously, whereas service management people, we have to be stable and able to provide that response so that the customer's information search is easy. The customer can easily find us. So if I am a food and beverage service, I have to ensure that in my targeted community of customers, my name comes up first in the consumer's mind when they feel the need of eating out or having a refreshment. Here, academically, we understand that there is a wide variety of solutions that are possible to respond to a particular need, but the customer usually makes a selection. So as a business, we have to ensure that from that wide array of choices that are possible to meet the aroused need, we have to be within what we call the evoked set, which you see on your screen. It's a set of products and brands that a consumer considers during the actual decision making process. So it's a subset of the total possibility, and it is important that as our marketing activity, our service reputation, our service excellence ensures that we are within the evoked set. And then of course, within the evoked set, the customer evaluates the alternatives. Now this is, in the service domain, a very deep and critical activity. We have found through our researches that the attributes, or rather features, or the qualities, or the properties that the customer emphasizes in his or her mind while evaluating the alternatives posed by the evoked set are of three types. The easier one is the search attribute, which are fundamentally based on quantity and quality of information. So to decide on a food outlet, to decide on a restaurant, or to choose a price for a commodity, fundamentally the customer needs good and enough sufficient information. So those services which are heavy with respect to search attributes can provide good, high quality, enough information and achieve their objective. But if the service is experience heavy, then you need some way the customer to get a feel. So it's like a trailer of a movie, or a sample or test ride, or a visit to a new theme park or holiday destination through internet based sharing of experiences, through audio video disclosure of finer points and so on. The toughest one, of course, is the third category, which is credence attribute. As we have discussed before, credence attribute based services, for example, healthcare, medical advice, dental care, education, legal advice. In these cases, it is not possible for the customer to get a sample experience. Even enough amount of information or good quality information can go up to a certain extent, but still cannot respond to all the anxieties and queries and uncertainties in customer's mind. This is a diagram that lists different kinds of services and puts them on these three types of attributes. And as you can see then, on the very left, we have mostly products, goods, tangible like clothing, chair, a car, or food. And here therefore, the service management, service marketing has to focus on availability for the target group of customers, sufficient and good information. Not too much that can create information anxiety, not too little that the customer is not prompted, but good, high quality, enough information can ensure that we satisfy the search attribute related to the aroused need. The next one, which is the kind of services like restaurant meals or haircut or entertainment, a movie, heavy on the experiential dimension. In this case, that's why movies try to promote their trailers to various television shows and internet sites like YouTube and so on. That's why the FM radio channels continuously broadcast the hit songs of a new movie, because it provides some sample experience that attracts the customer to a service which is heavy with high in experience attribute. The challenge more is with respect to the third category, the credence attribute based services. This is where we have most pure services, not having much of tangible goods associated. So legal services, education, complex medical procedures are in this category. So, and the difficulty of our evaluation extends from left to right. So there are some standard methods of responding to these three types of attributes, but the top point there is managing the risk perception in customer's mind. Usually customer has a higher level of risk perception when acquiring services as opposed to products, because as we have discussed earlier, services suffer from this non-searchability or abstractness. Therefore, there is a higher degree of risk perception. And so we need to establish a good framework of reputation, guarantee, warranty, some trial visits, and good network of previous users, social media setup for intending customers to share their queries with past customers who are happy and ready to endorse you, and so on. So this block diagram are all the strategies that respond to the customer's perception of risk. So advertisement, free trial, display of credentials in the doctor's chamber, use of evidence in the catalog, testimonials, guarantees. These are different ways to handle the risk perception. So now we are coming to the key point, that in the pre-acquisition stage or the pre-encounter stage, customer has lot of worries, risk perceptions which we have to manage, and customer has certain expectations. These expectations change according to context. When you go for a meal to a dhaba, your expectation is at a lower level compared to when you go for a meal with some family and friends to a top class fine dining restaurant. So our expectations are contextual, they change over time, they change according to location or social situation. So there are many different variations in expectation, and understanding this pre-encounter expectation is crucial for creating a good service experience as the customer flows through the service. I will conclude with this particular diagram, and you see in the middle we have the blue zone, which is the desired level of service, and in the lower part we have adequate service. So when the customer is approaching the service facility, there is already a certain amount of framing with respect to desired service, which comes from personal need and belief about what is possible. On the other hand, based on service alterations and situational factors, like for example, if you are hungry, you are on the highway and you stop at a dhaba, roadside dhaba. At that stage, maybe your expectation is at this level, adequate service. But if you are in a different context, then based on word of mouth, based on reviewers' rating, at a fine dining restaurant you may have this level of expectation. And of course there is a zone which is in between, which we call the zone of tolerance. This is a very famous framework developed by Zythamol and others through their research. And obviously you can easily understand that after the service or even during the service, if the customer's perception is below this yellow level, the adequate level, then you are in trouble. And if the customer's perception is above the blue level, then you are creating wow factor, then you are creating customer delight. And in between, in this green zone, you are sort of in a neutral phase. So obviously, as you can see, as a services manager, our aim should be to create a service experience where customers' perception will go beyond this blue boundary. Thank you.